Have you ever caught yourself whispering, "I'll start tomorrow," only to realize that tomorrow never actually came? Think about it. How many dreams have you quietly buried under layers of excuses, waiting for that perfect moment when everything finally feels right? You know that moment you tell yourself will arrive, the one where the timing is flawless, the energy is there, and you're completely ready? Here's the brutal truth. That moment doesn't exist. Readiness is an illusion, motivation is a liar, and waiting is the silent killer of your potential. We've all said it before, "I'll start tomorrow," but tomorrow has a habit of slipping through our fingers. The Stoics, thousands of years ago, knew this well, long before self-help books lined our shelves and motivational speakers filled our feeds. They taught something timeless. Life isn't about what you feel, it's about what you do. Action is everything. Epictetus put it plainly. First say to yourself what you would be, and then do what you have to do. Notice the power in that word, do. Not dream, not wait, not hope. Do. Because without action, wisdom is nothing more than elegant theory, and potential is nothing more than wasted air. Every single morning you wake up, you're handed a choice. Will you move forward, or will you stay stuck? The longer you delay, the heavier your excuses become, and the harder it is to break free. That's why the strongest version of you isn't the one who waits for inspiration to knock on the door. It's the one who moves even when it's uncomfortable, even when every excuse feels justified, even when no one is watching. And that's exactly what we're diving into today. In this episode, we're breaking down 10 Stoic truths that reveal why forcing yourself to act, every single day, is the key to building discipline, confidence, and lasting success. This isn't about shallow hype. It's not about empty motivational slogans. It's about constructing a life that proves itself through action, not talk. So remember what we just uncovered. Action isn't just about moving forward. It's the key that unlocks motivation itself. Once you take that first step, something powerful happens. Momentum begins to build, your focus sharpens, distractions fade into the background, and your energy rises almost without your permission. It's as if your own brain rewards you with a surge of motivation you didn't even have before. Think about motivation like a fire. If you sit around waiting for warmth, you'll freeze in the cold. But if you strike the match, gather the wood, and light the flame, the warmth arrives. Action is that match. Every time you take a step, no matter how small, you feed the fire. Every time you hesitate, every time you tell yourself, later, you let that fire sputter out. And here's the hidden power most people overlook. Action doesn't just create motivation for the task right in front of you. It spills into every other area of your life. Do one disciplined thing in the morning. Maybe it's finishing your workout, making your bed, or simply choosing not to hit snooze, and you carry that energy into your work, your mindset, even your relationships. Action creates momentum, and momentum is addictive. The more you move, the more you want to keep moving. But sadly, most people never taste this momentum because they let their feelings sit in the driver's seat. They wake up and say, "I just don't feel like it today." But feelings? They're unstable. They shift and swing like the weather. Build your life around them, and you'll be as inconsistent as a stormy sky. The Stoics taught something different. They taught, act according to your principles, not your moods. In other words, action first, feelings later. And let's be honest with ourselves, no one regrets action. You never finish a workout thinking, "I wish I hadn't done that." You don't finish writing a page of your book and say, "That was pointless." But how often have you regretted staying in bed? How often have you looked back at a wasted day, knowing laziness, fear, or hesitation won? Regret never comes from action. It only comes from inaction. So the next time you catch yourself waiting to feel ready, stop. Interrupt that thought immediately. Action is the cure. Action is the spark. Action is the switch that flips your brain from lazy to focused, from tired to energized, from stuck to moving. Don't sit around expecting inspiration to knock politely at your door. It rarely does. Create it with your own two hands. Start now with what you have, right where you are. Because at the end of the day, motivation isn't something you stumble upon like treasure, it's something you generate. And the generator is always action. That's why the Stoics lived by one unshakable rule: discipline over emotion. Don't let your feelings dictate your future. Here's the truth: if you only move when you feel like it, you'll never get anywhere. One morning you're energized, ready to conquer the world. The next, you're drained, uninspired, and every excuse in the book suddenly sounds reasonable. If your life runs on emotion, you'll always be a slave to your moods. That's why discipline matters far more than feelings. Discipline means you do it anyway. You show up whether you're tired, busy, bored, or uninspired. You keep your promises to yourself, not because it's easy, but because it's who you are. And that's the foundation of real progress. Think about athletes. Do you really believe they leap out of bed every single day thrilled to train? Of course not. Most mornings they're sore, exhausted, or tempted to skip. But they still lace up their shoes, lift the weights, run the laps. Why? Because they know discipline, not emotion, produces results. The Stoics understood this long ago. Epictetus taught that no man is truly free unless he is master of himself. Mastery doesn't come from indulging every feeling. It comes from guiding them, from refusing to let them be the boss of your life. Yet most people give their emotions too much authority. They say, I'm tired, so I won't go to the gym, or I'm stressed, so I'll skip working on my goals today. One skipped day might feel small, but over time those tiny excuses pile up, and what do they build? A wasted life. Discipline is the antidote. Discipline says, I'm tired, but I'll do something anyway, even if it's smaller than usual, even if it's just 10 minutes. The point isn't perfection, it's that you refuse to bow to your emotions. You acted, and that act builds a strength feelings can never give you. Marcus Aurelius captured it perfectly in his Meditations. If it is endurable, then endure it. Stop complaining. That is the heart of discipline. You don't let discomfort, laziness, or moods control you. You face them. You endure them. You do what must be done. Complaints don't build anything. Action does. And here's the paradox: discipline doesn't just silence your emotions. It reshapes them over time. At first, your feelings resist discipline. Your mind screams, I don't want to do this. But if you push through, something shifts. Slowly, your brain begins to link the action with. We just saw how discipline reshapes your emotions. At first, the resistance screams. But over time, something shifts. Your mind starts linking action with progress, with pride, with results. Slowly, the weight lifts, the resistance weakens, and the action that once felt impossible begins to feel automatic. That's when discipline transforms into habit. And this is why the Stoics insisted that discipline is freedom. Now, that might sound like a contradiction. Freedom and discipline? Most people hear discipline and imagine restriction, rules, life without choice. They picture forcing yourself, limiting your options, squeezing joy out of life. But the truth is the opposite. Discipline doesn't chain you, it liberates you. Why? Because when you know, deep down, that you can rely on yourself regardless of mood or circumstance, you become unstoppable. You don't wait for the perfect mood, the perfect timing, or the perfect energy. You act, and in doing so, you create consistency in a world built on inconsistency. Now pause and really think about your own life. How many opportunities have slipped through your fingers simply because you weren't in the mood? How many workouts skipped, projects delayed, or dreams abandoned because emotions won the battle? It's a haunting thought, isn't it? Now flip the question. Imagine if, every time that inner resistance whispered, you had acted anyway. Where would you be today? How far ahead would you already be? That gap between where you were and where you long to be, it isn't about talent. It isn't about luck, it's about discipline winning over emotion. The Stoics didn't deny their emotions. They weren't robots. They felt them, they acknowledged them. But here's the key: they didn't allow those emotions to dictate their actions. That's the dividing line between drifting and progressing. Feeling tired, sad, or anxious doesn't mean you stop moving. It means you carry those feelings with you as you keep walking forward. That's real discipline. So here's the challenge I'll put in front of you. The next time your emotions tell you to quit, do the opposite. Prove to yourself that you are stronger than a fleeting feeling. Because feelings fade, fade, discipline stays. And every single time you choose discipline over emotion, you're not just completing a task, you're taking one more step toward the life you truly want. That's the second Stoic truth. Real progress doesn't depend on moods or feelings. It's built on daily discipline, on showing up no matter how you feel. Yes, emotions can knock you down, but discipline is the hand that pulls you back up and pushes you forward. Now, here's something most people never stop to realize. The way you see yourself, your self-respect, isn't built on what you say about yourself. It's built on what you do. You can stand in front of a mirror and chant affirmations all morning long, saying, "I'm confident, I'm strong, I'm disciplined," but if your actions don't back it up, you know deep down it's a lie. True confidence, real, lasting self-respect, is earned through action, not words. Every time you promise yourself something, wake up early, finish the workout, complete that task, study for an hour, and you actually follow through, something powerful happens inside. You send a signal to your brain that says, "I can trust myself." And that, right there, is the seed of self-respect. Like a muscle, it grows stronger with each repetition. On the flip side, every broken promise chips away at that trust. You say you'll start the diet, but you quit after 2 days. You say you'll save money, but then spend it carelessly. You say you'll work on your dreams, but instead you scroll for hours. Each time, a quiet voice inside whispers, "See? You can't rely on yourself." Over time, that whisper grows louder, and your confidence shrinks. The Stoics believed in integrity, not just in public, where others are watching, but in private, when no one sees. Epictetus put it bluntly, if you want to improve, be content to be thought foolish and stupid with regard to external things, but with yourself never be content with failure to act. Translation: the world's opinion doesn't matter. What matters is whether you respect yourself. And that respect comes only from consistent action. Let's be real, self-respect isn't forged in dramatic, cinematic moments. It's built quietly, in the small daily choices that stack up over time. It's built when you grind out the last representative at the gym even when your muscles burn. It's built when you sit down to write even though Netflix is calling. It's built when you save instead of wasting money on something you don't need. Every time you do the uncomfortable thing you promised yourself you would, you're laying a brick. Brick by brick, those choices form a foundation of trust in yourself that no one can ever take away. And here's the secret: when you finally respect yourself, you stop begging for respect from others. You stop chasing validation because you already hold the only approval that truly matters, your own. And people notice. They sense it. They see it in the way you walk, the way you speak, the way you carry yourself. That quiet confidence is magnetic. It's real. It's not bravado. It's not empty words or forced posturing. It's the unshakable calm of someone who knows, deep down, I can rely on myself. Now think about how most people try to build self-esteem. They chase compliments, they compare themselves to others, they scroll through highlight reels looking for it. Most people, when they try to build self-esteem, go about it the wrong way. They search for compliments, compare themselves to others, or buy things to look successful. But deep down, they know the truth. They haven't kept their promises to themselves. They haven't done the hard work. And that's why, no matter how polished their outside image looks, they still feel empty inside. Because here's the unshakable truth: self-respect can't be bought, borrowed, or faked. It has to be earned, and the way you earn it is simple, through consistent action. Staying true to your word and showing up daily doesn't just shift how you feel, it rewires your identity. You stop being someone trying to be disciplined, and you become someone who is disciplined. You stop being someone who merely hopes to succeed, and you transform into someone who takes deliberate steps toward success every single day. Your actions, repeated over time, define you far louder than your words ever will. So ask yourself honestly right now, are your daily actions building respect for yourself, or are they slowly tearing it down? Every choice you make nudges you in one direction or the other. There's no neutral ground. You're either stacking bricks of trust with yourself or chipping them away piece by piece. The good news is this: you don't need to climb the mountain tomorrow. You can start small, right where you are. One promise. Keep it, then add another. Slowly, those small wins begin to multiply, and before long, you've rebuilt your entire relationship with yourself. That's the third Stoic truth. Self-respect doesn't come from affirmations or outside praise. It comes from repeated action, from keeping your own promises until your word to yourself is unshakable. When you reach that point, you walk with a quiet confidence no one can touch, because it's grounded in the unbreakable foundation of your own discipline. Now let's move into the next lesson: consistency over intensity. Here's a trap so many people fall into. They believe success is born from one big push, a heroic burst of effort, a dramatic moment of inspiration that changes everything. They say things like, "This Monday, I'll start working out every day," or "This week, I'm going to grind harder than ever." And yes, for a few days, or maybe even a couple of weeks, they go all in. They wake up early, they push hard, they burn with motivation, but then what happens? The fire dies, the routine collapses, and they end up right back where they started, only now burdened with even more disappointment, because they've proven to themselves, again, that they can't sustain it. The truth? Intensity is overrated. Anyone can go hard for a short time. Anyone can sprint for a moment. But what separates those who succeed from those who stay stuck isn't intensity, it's consistency. It's the person who shows up day after day, even when they're not in the mood. It's the one who chips away at their goals one action at a time. It's the one who stacks small wins until those wins grow into extraordinary results. The Stoics understood this deeply. Marcus Aurelius wrote in his Meditations, "Don't waste the rest of your life wondering what a good man is." Be one. Notice how simple that is. Don't waste time dreaming about it. Don't fantasize about it. Don't talk endlessly about it. Live it, daily. That is consistency in its purest form. Greatness isn't born in dramatic, cinematic bursts. It's forged in ordinary actions, repeated so many times they eventually transform into something extraordinary. Think about fitness. The person who works out moderately 3 times a week for years will always be stronger and healthier than the one who destroys themselves in the gym for 2 months and then quits. Think about money. The one who saves and invests steadily, little by little, always ends up wealthier than the one who throws all their cash into a flashy hustle and burns out. Or think about learning. Reading 10 pages a day, consistently, will build far more lasting knowledge than cramming hundreds of pages once and forgetting most of it a week later. Consistency compounds. It's like compound interest for your habits. Small deposits made every day quietly grow into something massive over time. That's why it's infinitely more powerful to commit to steady daily action than to chase the fantasy of sudden transformation. But here's the challenge: our emotions love intensity. Intensity feels exciting, glamorous, dramatic. It gives us a temporary high, but it's not sustainable. Life will always throw obstacles your way: low energy days, stress, distractions. If you're relying on intensity, you'll collapse the moment life gets in the way. But if you've built consistency, you'll keep moving anyway, slowly, steadily, relentlessly. And here's what makes consistency even more powerful. Every time you show up, even in a small way, you're casting a vote for the person you want to become. One workout doesn't make you fit, but it makes you the type of person who doesn't quit. One page of writing doesn't finish a book, but it makes you the kind of person. Every small action you repeat is like casting a vote for the kind of person you want to become. One workout won't transform your body overnight, but it does something even more powerful. It confirms to yourself that you are the type of person who doesn't quit. One page of writing won't complete a book, but it whispers, "I am a writer." These small votes, stacked daily, eventually add up to something far greater than a completed task. They add up to a new identity. And once your identity changes, everything about your life begins to change with it. Here's the paradox. Consistency feels harder in the beginning, but it becomes easier in the long run. Intensity, on the other hand, feels easy at the start, but becomes impossible to sustain over time. Consistency requires patience. It asks you to lower your expectations of what can be done in a single day, while raising your expectations of what can be achieved in a year. It's about trading the short-term thrill for long-term transformation. So the next time you feel the urge to go all in with a dramatic burst of effort, pause and ask yourself, can I sustain this for a year? If the answer is no, scale it back. Find the level of action you can repeat, not just for a week, not just for a season, but for a lifetime. Because it's the steady drumbeat, not the one-time explosion, that creates unstoppable momentum. That's the fourth Stoic truth. Greatness doesn't come from rare bursts of intensity. It comes from ordinary, consistent actions repeated so often they compound into extraordinary results over time. Intensity might get you started, but consistency is what keeps you moving. And in the end, consistency is what wins. Now we step into another truth, one that most people spend their entire lives trying to avoid. Pain is growth. Most people run from it. They dodge discomfort. They hide from struggle. They label anything difficult as bad. They want the rewards without the process, the results without the sacrifice, the glory without the grind. But the Stoics knew better. They understood that pain isn't your enemy. Pain is your teacher. Pain is the price of growth. Think about your body. When you walk into a gym and lift weights, what happens? Your muscles tear on a microscopic level. They burn. They ache. But that pain isn't destruction, it's creation. It's the signal that your body is rebuilding itself, stronger than before. Without that discomfort, there is no growth. The same principle applies to your mind, your discipline, your character. Every time you lean into discomfort, whether it's having a difficult conversation, facing rejection, or pushing through when your body screams to quit, you're building resilience. You're strengthening your spirit in ways comfort never could. The Stoics lived by this truth. Seneca wrote, "Difficulties strengthen the mind as labor does the body." He wasn't just being poetic. He was giving us a blueprint. Struggle is the training ground. The pain you face today becomes the strength you carry tomorrow. Without tests, without obstacles, you remain soft. And life doesn't reward softness. It crushes it. Yet the problem is this. We've been conditioned from childhood to fear pain. We're told to avoid it, to seek comfort, to chase ease. And that's why so many people grow up fragile, anxious, and unfulfilled. They never built the calluses that only come from walking through difficulty. But here's the paradox. The more you run from pain, the weaker you become. The more you face it, the stronger you grow. When you're single, this lesson hits even harder. There's no one to buffer the storms for you. No one to lean on when things feel unbearable. And while that can feel terrifying at first, it's actually your greatest advantage. It forces you to develop the strength to stand alone. Every challenge becomes training. Every lonely night, every setback, every doubt, they're all weights you're lifting in the gym of life. Each representative makes you tougher, steadier, more resilient. And the pride that comes from that? It's not the shallow pride of showing off. It's the deep pride of knowing, I endured, I survived, I overcame. Every scar becomes a reminder. I didn't quit. I didn't break. I got stronger. That's confidence no motivational quote, no Instagram post, no compliment can ever give you. It's earned in the fire of your own trials. And here's the real paradox. Once you stop fearing pain, life actually gets easier. Not because the obstacles vanish, but because you've trained yourself to face them. What once crushed you now feels like conditioning. What once terrified you now excites you. You begin to see discomfort not as a sign of failure, but as living proof that you're growing. Because here's the hard reality. If you avoid pain, you avoid growth. If you avoid growth, you stay the same. And if you stay the same, life passes you by while you're left wondering why nothing ever changes. Comfort, not pain, is the real trap. Comfort lulls you into weakness, keeps you stagnant, makes you fragile. Pain, on the other hand, builds strength, freedom, and resilience. The Stoics never glorified suffering for its own sake. The Stoics weren't saying, go out and hunt for misery. They weren't glorifying suffering for the sake of it. What they taught was far more practical. When pain shows up, and it always will, don't run. Don't hide. Don't curse it as though life has betrayed you. Instead, embrace it, study it, let it sharpen you, harden you, prepare you. Because a life without pain is a life without progress. So the next time discomfort knocks, whether it's physical, emotional, or mental, don't immediately ask, how do I escape this? Ask instead, what is this teaching me? What strength am I building right now? Because every representative of pain is also a representative of growth. That's the fifth Stoic truth. Pain is not your enemy. Pain is growth. And the sooner you stop running from it and start embracing it, the sooner you'll unlock a level of strength most people never discover. But this strength only becomes real if you take the next step. Stop depending on motivation. Here's a hard truth. Motivation is unreliable. It shows up when it wants and vanishes exactly when you need it most. If you build your life around it, you'll never get far. Motivation is like the weather, sometimes sunny, sometimes stormy, always unpredictable, and completely out of your control. And if you only act when the weather feels good, your progress will always be unstable. Think about how many people live this way. They wait for the perfect mood. I'll start when I feel inspired. I'll work when the timing feels right. And then weeks turn into months, months into years, and nothing has changed. Why? Because they were waiting for a feeling instead of building a system. The Stoics would have called that foolish. Marcus Aurelius reminded us, you have power over your mind, not outside events. Motivation is an outside event. It comes and goes like passing clouds. Your real power lies in controlling what you do, not what you feel. That's why discipline beats motivation every single time. Discipline says, I'll act whether I feel like it or not. And the beauty of discipline is that it doesn't care about your moods. It's built on commitment, not on fleeting feelings. You can wake up tired. You can feel lazy. You can hate every second of it. But if you're disciplined, you still act. And that's where true growth is forged. Think of motivation as a spark. It can ignite the fire, but it can't keep it burning. Systems and routines are the logs that keep the fire alive through the night. If you sit waiting for sparks, you'll freeze in the cold. But if you've built a fire pit of structure, habits, and systems, you'll stay warm even when motivation flickers out. Look at anyone who has achieved mastery in their field, athletes, artists, entrepreneurs. Ask them if they always feel motivated. Most will tell you the truth. Rarely. They don't rely on feelings. They rely on systems. A runner doesn't ask, do I feel like running today? They lace up their shoes because running is part of who they are. A writer doesn't wait for inspiration to strike like lightning. They sit down and write, even when the words crawl out slowly. A business owner doesn't wait for the perfect mood. They show up because their business depends on it. And here's the hidden reward. Once you stop depending on motivation, you actually become more consistent. That consistency produces results. Those results build confidence. And confidence becomes fuel that carries you farther than motivation ever could. Discipline creates a self-sustaining cycle. Act, see results, gain confidence, act again. Most people never taste this cycle because they're addicted to the feeling of motivation. They want the rush before they take the step. But that's backwards. Feelings don't come first. Action does. Action creates the feelings you're waiting for. That's why systems are freedom. When you build routines, you don't need the emotional high. You don't need to bargain with yourself. You just follow the structure, and the structure carries you. Imagine you want to get fit. If you wait for motivation, maybe you'll work out once or twice, then stop. But if you set a routine, say Monday, Wednesday, Friday at 7 a.m., you've already decided. There's no negotiation. You don't ask, do I feel like it today? You just go. Over time, it becomes automatic. That's the true power of systems. The Stoics lived this way. They didn't wait for moods. They built their lives around principles and daily practices that anchored them no matter how they felt. And that's why their wisdom has survived for centuries. It wasn't rooted in temporary inspiration. It was rooted in unshakable action. So here's the challenge for you. Stop waiting for motivation. Stop chasing the perfect mood. Instead, build systems. Build routines. Build discipline. Because when motivation disappears, and it always will, it's your systems that will keep you moving. And that's the sixth truth. So here's the reminder. Don't depend on motivation. Depend on discipline. Depend on structure. Most of all, depend on yourself. Because the person who acts without motivation will always outlast the person who waits for it. Now let's tackle another trap that quietly kills more dreams than failure ever could, the all or nothing trap. This is one of the biggest lies we tell ourselves. If I can't do it perfectly, I won't do it at all. That mindset ruins more progress than mistakes ever will. Why? Because life is never perfect. And while you're waiting for flawless conditions, you're wasting precious time. Think about it. How many times have you said, I'll start when things calm down? I'll start when I have more money. I'll start when I have more time. But here's the reality. Life never fully calms down. There will always be bills. There will always be work. There will always be stress and distractions. If you wait for everything to line up, you'll be waiting forever. The Stoics understood this deeply. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "Do not act as if you were going to live 10,000 years. Death hangs over you. While you live, while it is in your power, be good." Translation: stop waiting. Start now. Here's the truth. Progress is messy. Growth is messy. Success is built on imperfect action, not flawless plans. If you're waiting for perfection, you'll end up with nothing. But when you accept imperfection and move forward anyway, you gain something far more valuable, momentum. And momentum matters more than perfection ever could. Take fitness as an example. People often say, if I can't work out for an hour, I'll just skip it. That's the wrong mindset. 10 minutes is better than 0. A short walk is better than sitting on the couch. A half workout still builds progress. Or think about goals. Someone says, if I can't write a full chapter, I won't write at all. That's a trap. Write one page. Write one paragraph. Even one sentence moves you forward. Something is always better than nothing. The all or nothing mindset doesn't come from wisdom. It comes from pride. Deep down, people don't want to look slow, weak, or imperfect. So instead of risking failure, they choose inaction. But here's the irony. By avoiding imperfect effort, they guarantee failure. The Stoics would laugh at this. Epictetus said, first learn the meaning of what you say, and then speak. The same principle applies to action. First take small action, then worry about perfecting it later. Because it's consistency, not perfection, that destroys the all or nothing trap. Small, steady actions compound into massive results. $1 saved every day becomes thousands. One push-up a day becomes strength. One honest conversation a day transforms relationships. Waiting for the perfect moment creates nothing. Acting now, even imperfectly, creates everything. And here's the best part. Small actions build confidence. Each time you prove to yourself you can do something, even at a small level, your brain whispers, I can handle this. That confidence fuels the next step, and the next, until you're moving faster than you ever thought possible. Meanwhile, the person waiting for all is left with nothing but excuses. Think about history. History wasn't written by those who waited for perfect conditions. It was written by people who started where they were, with what they had. The Stoics, the thinkers, the leaders, they didn't wait for calm seas. They acted in the middle of war, chaos, and uncertainty. And because they acted, their ideas outlived them. So destroy the trap. Stop demanding perfection before you begin. Don't say, I'll start when I can do it all. Say instead, I'll start with what I can today, even if it's small, even if it's imperfect. Because something repeated daily builds a life. Nothing repeated daily builds regret. That's the seventh Stoic truth. The all or nothing mindset is an illusion. Progress isn't about perfection, it's about movement. Every step counts. Every small effort compounds. And if you keep moving, even in tiny ways, one day you'll look back and realize those imperfect steps built something extraordinary. Now let's move into the eighth truth. Action builds identity. At first, forcing yourself to act feels uncomfortable. You resist. You procrastinate. You tell yourself, this isn't me. I'm just not disciplined. But here's the truth most people miss. Every action you take is a vote for the kind of person you're becoming. And over time, those votes add up. Think about it. If you show up to the gym, even for a short workout, you're casting a vote for being the kind of person who takes care of their body. If you sit down to write, even one page, you're casting a vote for being a writer. If you wake up early and put in work on your goals before the rest of the world stirs, you're not just being productive, you're casting a vote for being someone who values discipline. Every action is a ballot you cast in the silent election of your own identity. Each action might feel small in the moment, but repeated daily, they begin to tell a powerful story, the story you believe about who you are. The tragedy is that most people allow inaction to write their identity. They say things like, I'm lazy, I'm inconsistent, I'm just not that type of person. But here's the truth, you weren't born lazy or disciplined. No one is. You become lazy or disciplined depending on the actions you repeat, day after day. The Stoics were crystal clear about this. Epictetus urged, first say to yourself what you would be, and then do what you have to do. In other words, identity doesn't come from talking, it comes from doing. Words may declare intentions, but actions define reality. And here lies the hidden power. Once you start stacking actions that align with the person you want to be, your self-image begins to shift. You no longer say, I'm trying to be disciplined. You say, I am disciplined because I've proven it to myself. You stop saying, I'm hoping to be confident. Instead, you say, I am confident because my actions prove it. Action rewires your identity far deeper than words or thoughts ever could. And identity, once reshaped, changes everything. Because when your identity shifts, your actions stop being a struggle, they become automatic. Take smoking as an example. If you only try to quit, you'll fight temptation every single day. But if your identity shifts to, I am not a smoker, then every cigarette becomes inconsistent with who you are. Identity becomes a guardrail. It makes good actions easier and bad actions harder. This is why the Stoics emphasized daily practice. They knew you don't rise to the level of your intentions. You fall to the level of your habits. Marcus Aurelius reminded himself each morning to act with courage, justice, and discipline. Not to impress others, not to sound wise, but because every action either aligned him with his philosophy or pulled him away from it. Identity isn't built in abstract ideas. It's forged in the trenches of daily living. So ask yourself, who do you want to be? Strong, disciplined, creative, focused? Then follow with the next question. What small action today proves that? Because until you take the action, it's only talk. And the longer you delay, the more you reinforce the identity of someone who doesn't follow through. Here's the good news. You don't need massive leaps to start shifting your identity. Small wins are enough. 10 push-ups when you don't feel like it. Reading a single page instead of endlessly scrolling. 5 minutes of meditation instead of wasting the morning. Each of these actions is a brick. A brick you're laying down to build the house of your future self. And the more of those bricks you stack, the stronger your identity becomes. At first, yes, action feels forced. But once your identity shifts, action feels natural. You don't think, I should go to the gym. You think, I'm the kind of person who trains. You don't think, I should write. You think, I'm a writer, so I write. The struggle fades because your identity now matches your behavior. So don't underestimate the small actions. They're not just tasks to check off, they're the bricks that shape who you are becoming. Brick by brick, you build an unshakable identity. That's the 8th Stoic truth. Action builds identity. You're not someone waiting to become. You're already becoming, right now, with every choice you make. And here's the paradox. The more your actions align with the person you want to be, the faster that identity locks in. Until one day you look in the mirror and realize you already are the person you've been striving to become. Now let's move into the 9th truth, respect through structure. One of the biggest reasons people don't respect themselves, or fail to earn respect from others, is because their lives lack order. No rhythm, no structure, their days are scattered, reactive, chaotic. They wake up whenever, they eat whenever, they work whenever, and then they wonder why nothing changes. But here's the simple truth. Without structure, your life becomes reactive. You spend your days responding to whatever life throws at you instead of directing your own path. And people who live that way don't build respect, they build excuses. Structure, on the other hand, creates respect. When you set routines and stick to them, you prove something powerful to yourself. My time matters, my goals matter, my word matters. You stop drifting through life and start steering it with intention. When you live with structure, you're not just filling your days, you're building them with intention. The Stoics lived exactly this way. Their philosophy wasn't just clever words or abstract theories. It was practice. It was daily routines. It was disciplines repeated until they became part of their character. Marcus Aurelius didn't write his meditations for applause or as some literary project. He wrote them as reminders, anchors for his mind, so he wouldn't lose focus in the chaos of ruling an empire. Imagine the weight of leading Rome, with wars, politics, betrayals, and endless demands pulling at you. Without structure, even an emperor would collapse. With it, he endured. That's the power of structure in your own life. When you have order, you don't waste energy debating what to do every moment. The decision is already made. If your mornings are for training, then when the alarm rings, you train. If your evenings are for reading, then when the sun sets, you pick up a book. Structure eliminates the space for excuses, and that makes your actions stronger, your results faster, and your confidence unshakable. Most people think structure is a prison. They say things like, I don't want a schedule, I want freedom. But here's the irony, without structure, you're not free. You're a slave to your impulses. You spend the day chasing distractions, bending to moods, wasting time. With structure, you actually gain freedom, because the important things are already locked in. You don't have to wonder, will I work out today? You already decided. You don't have to wonder, will I make progress on my goals? It's built into your routine. That's real freedom, the kind where you know your life is moving forward no matter how chaotic the outside world becomes. And here's another truth. Structure doesn't just make you respect yourself. It makes others respect you, too. People notice when you're disciplined. They notice when you keep your word, when you value your time, when you don't bend for every distraction that comes your way. It signals strength. It signals reliability. And that's attractive in friendships, in business, in relationships, because deep down, everyone respects the person who respects themselves. The Stoics would call this living in accordance with nature. Look at the world around you. Nature has order, seasons, cycles, rhythms. Without that order, there is chaos. And chaos destroys. But when you create structure in your own life, you align yourself with that same natural order. You stop fighting the day as if it's random and start shaping it with purpose. So how do you build structure? Start small. Decide what time to wake up, and stick to it. Choose one habit, exercise, writing, meditation, and protect it like it's sacred. Build anchors into your day that never move, no matter what else happens. Over time, those anchors expand into a full structure, and that structure becomes the skeleton of your success. Think about it like a house. Without a solid framework, the walls collapse, the roof caves in, everything falls apart. With structure, everything holds steady. Your life works the same way. Without a framework, it crumbles under pressure. With a framework, it can withstand storms. And here's the payoff. Once you live with structure, you begin to trust yourself more. You know that even if today isn't perfect, you'll still show up for what matters. That trust becomes self-respect. And when you respect yourself, the world follows. That's the ninth Stoic truth. Respect comes through structure. Not through talk, not through big dreams, but through daily routines that prove you mean what you say. Structure is not your enemy, it's your foundation. Build it, and you'll build a life worth respecting. Now let's move to the 10th Stoic truth. Success is built in silence. Most people think success is loud. They imagine big announcements, dramatic breakthroughs, viral moments where the world finally notices them. They crave applause, recognition, instant results. But that's not how real success works. Real success is quiet. It's built in the shadows, in the hours no one sees, in the small, repeated actions that look ordinary in the moment but add up to something extraordinary over time. The Stoics understood this better than anyone. They didn't chase attention or applause. They chased mastery. Epictetus said it clearly. Don't explain your philosophy. Embody it. In other words, don't talk about what you're going to do. Don't brag about the life you plan to build. Do it. True strength, true achievement doesn't need noise. It needs consistency. Think about nature. A tree doesn't announce its growth. It doesn't shout, "Look at me." It simply grows quietly, steadily, year after year, until one day it stands massive and unshakable. That's what success looks like. Success is invisible in the beginning, slow in the middle, and undeniable at the end. But here's the tragedy. Most people quit too soon because they expect results right away. They dig up the seed after a week, impatiently checking to see if it has grown. They demand proof before they've given time a chance to do its work. But success doesn't operate on your schedule. It operates on the timeline of discipline. When you build in silence, you free yourself from the chains of validation. You don't need to post every move online. You don't need strangers to clap for you. You don't need permission to keep going. You're not chasing likes, you're chasing results. And that makes you dangerous, because while everyone else is busy talking, you're busy doing. Think about athletes. The highlight reel you see on TV, the slam dunks, the touchdowns, the victories, is the product of thousands of silent hours in the gym when no one was watching. Think about writers. That book you admire didn't come from inspiration striking once. It came from long, lonely nights at a desk, pouring out words in silence. Think about entrepreneurs. The company you admire today was built on endless quiet sacrifices, late nights, failures, and risks no one ever applauded. Success is built in silence, and only revealed when it's ready. And here's the beauty of working in silence. It protects you from the noise of the world. Talk too much about your plans and suddenly you've invited opinions, doubts, and distractions. People will project their fears onto you, telling you why it won't work. But when you keep your head down and focus on the work, no one can interfere. By the time they notice, it's too late. Your results are already undeniable. The Stoics lived this principle. Marcus Aurelius ruled the most powerful empire in the world, yet his writings weren't flashy speeches meant to impress the crowd. They were private notes, reminders to himself, scribbled in silence. And here we are, centuries later, still echoing his quiet words louder than the noise of his empire ever could. That's the power of silent work. Silence also builds humility. When you achieve without constant applause, you learn to love the process itself, not just the recognition. And that humility keeps you steady even as your results grow. Because here's the danger: success built on noise can vanish as quickly as it appears. But success built on silence lasts, because it's rooted in discipline, not attention. So ask yourself honestly, are you more focused on being seen, or on actually building? Do you want applause today, or results tomorrow? You can't have both. If you want lasting success, you must fall in love with the quiet, the unseen hours, the grind no one claps for, the sacrifices no one posts about. That's the 10th Stoic truth. Success is not built in noise, but in silence. In the hidden work, in the steady routines, in the quiet sacrifices that slowly but surely compound into greatness. So stop waiting for the world to notice you. Stop announcing your plans. Put your head down, do the work, and let your results speak for themselves. So here's the bottom line. Forcing yourself to take action every single day isn't just about hitting goals. It's about building a life you can actually be proud of. The Stoics knew this well. They knew progress doesn't come from waiting, or wishing, or chasing motivation. Progress comes from action, daily, repeated, unshakable action. When you act, you generate motivation instead of waiting for it. When you live by discipline instead of emotion, you take back control of your life. Every time you follow through, you build a kind of self-respect that no one can steal from you. Consistency beats intensity. Steady steps every day will always outlast random bursts of effort. Pain stops being your enemy and becomes your growth. You stop depending on motivation and start building systems that carry you forward. You destroy the all-or-nothing trap by doing what you can, even if it's small. Your actions shape your identity until you no longer try, you simply are. You earn respect by living with structure, proving to yourself and to the world that your time, your goals, your word matter. And above all, you realize that success is never built in noise. It's built in silence, in the quiet, unseen grind that nobody notices until the results become impossible to ignore. That's the Stoic way, and yes, it's hard. It's uncomfortable. It's not glamorous, but that's exactly why it works. It's what separates those who merely talk about change from those who actually transform. So let me leave you with this. Don't wait for tomorrow. Don't wait for inspiration. Don't wait for perfect conditions. Act today, act right now, because the person you want to become isn't waiting for motivation, they're waiting for you to move. And if this message hit you, don't just nod and move on. Subscribe right now, join this journey, because here we don't just talk philosophy, we live it every single day.